afternoon. We would like to start our webinar. So my name is Bolormaa and I'm working as the partner of the GRATA International Mongolia. And I would like to thank all of you for your time and interest to attend the webinar on doing business in Mongolia. So today we're going to have 3 presentations, and the first speaker will be myself presenting on the topic of investment general and regulatory environment in Mongolia. And then second presentation will be presented by Buyanjargal, associate of the GRATA International Mongolia. She will be presenting about the taxation and social insurance obligations of the investor. And the last presentation will be presented by Solongo, associate of the GRATA International Mongolia law firm, and she will be presenting about the work permit, visa, and enforcement proceedings. So if you have any questions, you can send your questions by question and answer box or chat box while we're presenting our presentation. And after all 3 presentation is finished, we will have answer and question sessions. So you can ask questions, and also, during the presentation, you also can send your answer questions. So before coming to content of my presentation, I would like to briefly introduce about the GRATA International law firm. GRATA International actually established 30 years ago, and it has presence about 20 countries and about 250 legal and non-legal professionals are providing full legal services to international and local clients. And GRATA International offices are located in Central Asian countries like the former post-Soviet Union countries and Eastern Europe. And the key advantage of approaching to GRATA International is if you approach one of the office to GRATA International and you're planning to expand your business in not in one country, maybe in 2-3 countries, GRATA International can provide you to expand your business in different countries through one office approach. So we call it one-stop shop. And also we do provide qualitative legal services at a reasonable fee range. And our mission is local knowledge for the global business. Here, the offices and the representatives of the GRATA International is shown on the map. So as you see that most of the offices is located in Central Asia, and also the GRATA International has an office in Russia, Turkey, and we do have representatives in China, UK, and USA, and some other countries. As mentioned before, we provide full services to our international and local clients. So this is the practice areas and legal products we provide to our clients, including employment-related legal services, corporate and merger and acquisition, and contracts, tax, and etc. And also we do assist our clients on litigation and dispute resolution matters. And here are the sectors which our clients operating business, including oil, gas, the mining, and industry and trade, and pharmaceutical, and etc. So we can provide, the legal service to all sectors. So coming to the content of my presentation, I just briefly want to share some statistical numbers about how the Mongolian economy is doing from 2018 to 2020. And I would like to share some information that what are the interesting and promising sectors of Mongolia to do business and invest. And it will be followed by what are the investment forms can be offered to the foreign investors, and what legal entity forms also can be chosen by the foreign investor to do business. And I also would like to highlight some of the regulated sectors and some permits required from the government of Mongolia in order to invest in Mongolia. And then lastly, I just want to share that list of the countries which the government of Mongolia has double taxation treaties. So double taxation avoidance treaties actually the important document which actually affect to the decision making of the investors, like from which country they want to run like the business to Mongolia. So overall, the population of the Mongolia is 3.2 million, and GDP in 2020 was 30.1 billion USD. And the Mongolian credit rating ranked by the international agencies are B, and the inflation rate in 2020 was 3.7%, unemployment is 7%, and trade balance was 2.2 billion USD in 2020. And according to the forecast GDP growth like made by Asian Development Bank, for this year, GDP growth for Mongolia will be 6%. So I see that, you know, regardless, there's a pandemic, lots of the border closure, difficulties to run the normal operation of the companies. The 6% looks like a quite positive numbers for the GDP growth rate. Here I would like to share FTA info to the country. So if you see the first diagram, there is no kind of drastic, the big change on FTA inflow. So for example, the FTA inflow was in 2019, 3.1 billion USD, and it's reduced to 2.5 billion USD in 2020. So, but you know, in terms of the number of the companies registered in Mongolia, like with the foreign investment, has reduced like 3 times. So in 2019, total 233 companies registered as a foreign invested company in Mongolia, but the number has reduced to the 76 in 2020. So from our government side, they also noticed that the tendency of the FTI to Mongolia is reducing. That's why there was an amendment on investment law was actually initiated by the parliament members. And we are also looking forward that, you know, the government will have some good actions in order to attract more FTIs, and we will have some good results in coming 2 or 3 years time. And the key advantages to invest and do business in Mongolia is if the startup company is investing into technology innovation hub, the tax exemption will be applied for 3 years. And then Mongolia is rich in natural resources and minerals. So the key exporting products are coal, copper, and gold. And also one of the promising sector in Mongolia is agriculture sector. So we will discuss a little more later. And also the geopolitical location of Mongolia is good because it's located between Russia and China, like the 2 largest the markets in the world. And in terms of the manpower, the Mongolian population is young and well educated, and the literacy level is about 98%. And also there's some good sign of they're doing like business in terms of the rule of law, regulatory equality, and transparency. So it's also like some good sign for the investors to do business in Mongolia. And under the investment law, there is a number of the tax and non-tax incentives actually offered to the foreign investors. So that will be discussed on a second presentation more in detail. And I would like to highlight that there is some successful mega project is actually implemented in Mongolia. The one is Oyutolho, which is the gold and copper mine company, which is listed in the world in terms of its deposit. And it's like owned, like run and hold the main shareholder of the Rio Tinto, which is the giant global mining company. And the second mining company is Tawan Tolga, and this one is the local company, and they quite successfully doing on the coal business and exporting its product to China. And the last advantage would like to highlight is telecom and IT sectors. So as mentioned before, because of the young population, generally the majority of the population is very keen to new telecommunication, IT related services. So if you're interested to invest into these sectors, you will have some good potential of the business in the market. As I said before, the mining sector is the key sectors for Mongolian economy. So the Mongolia is one of the world's leading mineral resources, has over 8,000 occurrences and 80 types of the minerals and metals. And as the sector is playing key role to the economy, it takes 89% of the total exports, and 70% of the total FDI also come to this sector. And it also contributes to the over 20% of the GDP of the country. And as shown on the table, you can easily see that, you know, main export products of Mongolia is coal, copper, and gold, and other minerals. The next sector, which will be more interested by the foreign investors to do business, is agriculture sector. So the Mongolia has a 1.5 million meters square territory and less densified populations. And also, you know, we have 67 million livestock, including 30 million sheep and 27 million goats. So if you're interested to business like the producing high valued industrial products based on the meat, cashmere, and wool, the Mongolia will be maybe the right destination to do business. And also, you know, in terms of the agriculture, agricultural land, the 60% of the Mongolian cultivated land is low in nutrition and potassiums, which is the good for, you know, the plantation, the business. The other sectors which might be interested for the investors are energy sectors, including wind power and solar energy. So about 10% of the total land area can be classified excellent for utility scale applications. And also Mongolia is classified good to excellent wind power resources. And for the solar energy sectors, the average about 300 days, sunny days per annum, and also the sunlight duration is around 3,000 hours like per year in most region of the Mongolia. So it indicates actually the Mongolia can be the area which to do some business on solar energy. And the last sectors I would like to pay your attention is banking and financial sectors. So according to the amendment on the law on bankings, the foreign investors can actually buy shares of the major 5 commercial banks of Mongolia, which will be listed on the stock exchange by mid of this year. And the main requirement for the major commercial banks are like the shares owned by individual and jointly by the related parties shall not exceed about 20% of the total issued shares of the bank. So it means that, you know, with giving the opportunities to the foreign investors to invest to the banking sectors of Mongolia. Here is the number of the forms you can do your investment. For example, like joint ventures, you can set up the new company with your local partner, or you can buy the shares of the existing company by merger and acquisition. And there are also the concession, product sharing, management contracts you can use. And for the petroleum sector, product sharing agreement is quite commonly used in Mongolia. And also investment can be done by bonds, securities, and other assets, and also the franchising. And any other investment types also can be used to do investment, unless it's not prohibited by the law. And I would like to mention that there is a number of the good franchising, international franchising projects implemented in Mongolia, especially in the food and beverage sectors, like including Coca-Cola, KFC, Pizza Hut, and King Burger. Here is coming the forms of the legal entities which offered and regulated under the company law and taxation laws. So if the foreign investor is interested to setting up the presence in Mongolia, one of these three options can be chosen. So, but we highly recommend to our clients to set up the company. The main reason is the company doesn't have any limitations like to do business in Mongolia, and it can conduct any business activities unless it's restricted or prohibited under the law. And for the foreign invested companies, 25% or more of the shares needs to be owned by the foreign investors. Then it will be considered as the foreign invested companies, and the minimum share capital for each investor will be 100,000 USD. And if we coming to the rep offices, rep office is the unit which is located in a place other than its head company. So generally the rep office's operation will be only for the supporting the head company's business in Mongolia, and it's kind of restricted to run any commercial profit earning activities in Mongolia. So, before making decisions, which option is more useful for us, maybe you have to do more kind of research. And the third option, the permanent establishment, is regulated and mandated by the taxation law and the procedures to register PE. So there is a certain requirements, for example, on the construction related projects, if it's continued 90 or more days in territory of Mongolia within 1 year, it is mandated to register PE. For the consulting services, if the service foreign service provider is providing its services for 6 months within 1 year, it also kind of mandated to register PE. So PE is registered to the tax office. The main purpose of registration is only to pay the taxation as a resident taxpayers. And other kind of common requirements for all these forms of the entities are they need to register as a taxpayer within 14 days from the completion of the state registration, and needs to become the social insurance withholder in order to pay social insurance of its employees, and then have to pay the taxes and needs to have accountant or accounting company in order to submit or file its financial and tax reports duly. So other point which I would like to highlight is rep office and permanent establishment are actually is not considered as the legal entity, but they have supporting kind of roles to support its head company's activities in Mongolia. And other forms of I would like to highlight here is if your business requires some licensing and permits, the company only can have the license and permit, and rep office actually cannot obtain the license. And in terms of having the benefit of the tax incentives, the company only have tax incentives, and rep office actually cannot exercise tax incentives which is offered under the law. Here is a number of the regulated sectors in Mongolia. So regulated sectors means that if you planning to do business in these sectors, you might require to obtain license from the state authority. And also there is a one exceptional case that if investor is state-owned company and they interested to hold the shares of Mongolian company like more than 33%, which the companies operates in mining, banking, IT, and media sectors, they additionally require to obtain the permit from the government of Mongolia. So for getting these permits, you have to prepare also a number of the documents. Now, after getting permits, you can actually do your investment and do business in Mongolia. So I'm coming to end of my presentation. Here is the list of the countries where Mongolian government has double taxation avoidance treaties. So for the foreign investor, it's quite important to know about what's the tax kind of preferential rates under the double taxation treaties. So if you have like a company registered in these countries and you are maybe planning to do business to Mongolia, maybe you better to check the double taxation treaties before making the decision of the investment. Okay, thanks for your attention. So if you have any questions, you can send your questions by chat box or question and answers boxes. So I would like to invite Buyanjargal to present her presentation on topic of taxation and social insurance obligations of the investors.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending our seminar today. My name is Buyanjargal, Associate of GRATA International Mongolia Law Firm. So in this section, you will be introduced to the tax system of Mongolia and main taxations and investment incentives and social insurance obligations of foreign investors. Moving to the tax system, these key tax laws, including general tax law, law on corporate income tax and personal income tax, and law on customs, tariffs, and duties, constitute the tax system of Mongolia. The general tax law and corporate income tax law and personal income tax laws were reformed in 2019 in order to bring the tax laws in line with international tax concepts, such as general anti-avoidance rules and transfer pricing rules. In terms of national tax administration structure, there are General Department of Taxation and tax agencies in capital city, provinces, districts, and zones. Also, there are tax inspectors and collectors. For foreign investment companies, they are under the jurisdiction of capital city tax department. For the key taxes in Mongolia, corporate income tax is one of the key taxes, covering the income from activities and income from movable and immovable properties, letting use them or renting them, or income from interest, fines, and penalties, and compensations from defaulting parties, and etc. are subject to corporate income tax. As shown here, the tax rates depends on the annual taxable income. For example, if the taxable income is less than 6 billion tugruks, they are subject to 10% of taxes. On the other hand, if the annual taxable income exceeds 6 billion tugruks, they are subject to 6 million tugruks of taxes plus 25% of taxes on the annual income exceeding the 6 million Togruks. Further, there's 1% of corporate income tax applies to companies earning up to 300 million Togruks. It should be noted that this 1% of tax is not applicable to taxpayers in mining, petroleum, and tobacco industries. This table shows other incomes taxable at different rates. Usually, the standard rate is 10% applicable to dividends, royalties, and interest, and etc. Also, 20% of withholding taxes apply to income sourced from or earned in Mongolia to non-resident taxpayers. There's a new rule for companies holding mining licenses. For example, such companies are obliged to disclose their ultimate beneficial owners. In this case, the sales of shares of such companies are regarded as transfer of rights, which is the license. So the amount under the sale and purchase agreement is subject to 10% of taxes, corporate income taxes. The next table shows the deductible expenses and tax-exempt incomes. For deductible expenses, investors should consider that the expenses should be properly documented and registered in the electronic value-added tax system. And otherwise, in case of lack of primary documents, they are unable to deduct. The tax-exempt incomes include the dividend and annual taxable income of taxpayers conducting activities in oil industry under production sharing agreement, and income transferred abroad from income mentioned above, and other incomes mentioned here. Furthermore, tax credits are available to investors. For example, if the annual taxable income is more than 300 million but less than 1.5 billion Togruks, they are able to enjoy 90% of tax credits. Again, it's not applicable to taxpayers in mining, petroleum, and alcoholic beverage and tobacco industries. And also there are some other credits, including credit for 50% of income earned in agriculture products and dairy products and meat products and etc. It is crucial to submit the tax report within the established period, and the reporting period depends on the annual taxable income. As shown here, if the annual income is up to 6 billion Togruks, companies are obliged to submit their reports twice a year, semi-annually and annually. And on the other hand, if the income exceeds 6 billion Togruks, companies are obliged to report quarterly and annually. And the statutory limitation period has become 4 years from 2020. This period covers tax reassessment, fines, penalties, and tax loss carry forward, and validation of value-added tax assessment. The next key tax in Mongolia is personal income tax. So if individuals stay in Mongolia for more than 183 days within a consecutive 12-month period, or if the income sourced from Mongolia exceeds 50% of their net income, such individuals are considered as resident taxpayer. And for non-residents, they are subject to tax obligations on income earned from Mongolia in the respective tax year. The table shows the types of income and their rates. So as you can see, standard rate of 10% applies to employment income and income from activities and other incomes. And 20% of withholding taxes applies to non-resident taxpayers on their income sourced from Mongolia. And it is notable that deduction is not allowed for employees except for social and health insurance. If you are registered as an entrepreneur, you may be able to claim business deductions. Additionally, tax credit is available for individuals if you are suffered tax in foreign countries, but the country, there must be existing agreement on exchange of information with Mongolia. And the credit is also available for agricultural production and educational fees. The next primary tax is value-added tax. So if the sales revenue of individuals and legal entities exceeds 50 million Togruks, they must register as a value-added taxpayer within 10 business days and must submit their reports within 10th of each month. And there are some goods and services exempted from value-added tax, such as agricultural products and raw materials and chemicals imported for manufacturing of innovative goods and products, and equipment for small and medium-sized enterprises, and for renewable energy research and products, and etc. Lastly, customs duties is one of the key taxes. Generally, 5% of ad valorem taxes applied to most of the import goods, and the specific tax usually ranges up to 40%. And this table shows sanctions for non-compliance with tax applications. For example, the table shows the minimum and maximum amount of penalties under the law on infringements. The amount of penalties depends on what infringements are committed. For example, failure to pay within the established period leads to a penalty 0.1% of penalty on the outstanding amount per overdue day, or if you fail to register as taxpayer or submit to tax within the established period, you will be subject to the individuals are subject to $52 of penalties, and legal entities are subject to $523 penalties. Lastly, under the criminal code, individuals and managing and executive officers of companies are subject to penalties or community services or restriction of right to travel in case of tax evasion. Now let's move on to the investment incentives. There are tax and non-tax incentives for investors. And for the tax incentive, investors are entitled to tax stabilization or tax exemptions, and tax stabilization can be provided under this tax stabilization certificate or investment agreement. And under the tax stabilization certificate, corporate income tax and customs duty and value-added tax and royalties are stabilized under the certificate. And in order to obtain this stabilization certificate, investors must meet a certain amount of investment. For example, in mining and heavy industry, the investment amount must be at least 30 billion Togruks, and the certificate is issued for up to 18 years, depending on the investment amount in the geographical regions. And for other sectors, the investment must be at least 10 billion Togruks and issued for up to 50 years, 100 years. And also, some projects are able to obtain a stabilization certificate for a longer period. For example, if the investment is more than 500 billion Togruks, or if the investors are engaging in value-added processing, production, and exporting their main products, they can obtain a longer period of stabilization certificate. And the tax is stabilized under investment agreement also. In this case, the minimum amount of investment must be 500 billion Togruks, and the period of the agreement depends on the geographic location. And the terms and conditions can be negotiated between the parties on stabilization of tax environment and regulatory and financial support. And for the tax exemption, for example, construction materials and petroleum and agriculture processing and export product plants during the construction work are exempted from customs duties, and 10% of 0% of value-added tax applies to such works. And also some assets can be transferred abroad without any tax payments. And additionally, the tax loss can be also carried forward. For example, the loss can be deducted from 50% of taxable income each year. For the non-tax incentives, investors are able to lease and use the land for up to 100 years. And alleviated regime of registration and checkpoints also apply to investors. And multiple entry visa and permanent residence permit are provided without any comprehensive procedures. Also, financial guarantee for production of export-oriented and innovative products are provided to investors. Lastly, in this section, I'll be covering the social insurance obligations. So under the social insurance regime of Mongolia, citizens of Mongolia and foreign citizens and stateless persons under employment agreements and hire agreements and other similar agreements are subject to mandatory social insurance. And as shown here, employers are obliged to up to 26% of social insurance obligation, including the deduction from their own salary fund and deduction from their employee's salary. And industrial accident and occupational disease insurance is optional, depending on occupational health and safety requirements of the company. And the reports must be submitted within 5th of every month, and the payment should be paid to the account of the social insurance fund. So here I come to the end of my presentation, and if you have any questions, you can leave your questions at the QA box. And thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you, Buyanjargal. So now we invite Solongo to present her presentation on the topic of the work permit, visa, and enforcement proceedings in Mongolia.
Good afternoon. My name is Solongo. I will present the process of obtaining work permit, visa, and residence permission and enforcement proceeding in Mongolia. I will begin my presentation with an overview of the process of obtaining a visa, work permit, and residency permit. Then I will present the investor grievance system, and after that, I will move to my last section, which is dedicated to enforcement proceeding in Mongolia. So first of all, I should say that the Mongolian government is known for a generally enforcing and fairly flexible investment policy, with foreign investment well received in all sectors of the economy. And each year, government approves its resolution on foreign employees ratio. And depending upon number of total employees and sector where the company operates, the ratio of expatriates can be various. For example, on the slide, you can see the ratio of expatriates approved this year. And according to this year government resolution, the ratio of expatriates in mining sector, if, for example, company has 30 employees, then only 10% of them can be an expatriate. And in case of the small company, if the total amount of employees is under 20, then only 5% of total employees can be an expatriate. Now I'd like to briefly overview the process of obtaining the residency permission in Mongolia. Firstly, before entering to Mongolia, the inviting party, it can be a company or employer, shall submit the visa invitation letter to the immigration agency. Then, before obtaining a visa, the inviting party shall submit all required documents for getting a visa permission. The visa permission is valid for 60 days, and in this period, the applicant is capable to obtain her visa from an embassy, consulate, or cross-border point specified in the permit. Upon arrival, the applicant must file a request to obtain a residence permission to the Mongolian immigration agency within 21 days. As I said before, the hiring company shall obtain employment invitation for an expatriate employee. Request shall be submitted to the immigration agency, which consults with the Labor and Welfare Agency before it can be authorized by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade. If all government agencies are in agreement regarding the application, then a visa invitation letter will be then forwarded to the embassy or consulate in the applicant's country of residence. On this slide, you can see the required documents for getting employment invitation, which includes application form, receipt of payment service fee, copy of state registration certificate, copy of license with attachment if any, copies of government resolution, social insurance forms, statement of ministries and agencies, reference from respective labor and social welfare division, an employment agreement, copy of foreign citizen passport, copy of professional diploma, and other materials can also be required. In 2020, the law of Mongolia on the legal status of foreign nationals has been amended. And according to that, visas for entry and transit now have 3 types. It's single entry, double entry, and multiple entry. Entry visas are issued to temporary visitors, residents for private or official purposes. Duration of stay of temporary visitors in Mongolia cannot exceed 180 days in a given year, or otherwise such visitors must obtain a residence permit. And depending on the visa, entry visa type, if it is, for example, single entry or double entry, then the stay period and valid period is different. For example, for single, double entry visa, the valid period is 150 days and stay period is for up to 90 days. Multiple entry visa, regarding multiple entry visa, the valid period can be 183 days or 365 days, and stay period is 30 days. Turning to that, Mongolia has 10 types of visas in general, including B, A, and letter and slipped in a Latin letter. And each classification has sub-classifications like shown on the slide, B1, B2, and others. And the B type of visa is more suitable for investors of foreign investment company and foreign nationals appointed as a representative of the investor and executive director. So it means like B type of visa is more suitable for shall apply to for investment purposes. C type of visa is suitable for foreign citizens with the purpose of working in Mongolia under an employment agreement. So it's like work visa. K1 visa is for temporary visitors visa, and it's suitable for foreign citizens visiting Mongolia with business purpose temporarily. And please note that citizens and business entities and organizations that provide accommodation to foreigners shall register them at the state administrative body in charge of matters of foreigners within 48 hours. And according to the new amendments made to the law, registration may be done electronically. So visa print, before obtaining a visa, the inviting party shall submit documents to get a visa permit. And a visa permit for investment, work, and temporary visit purpose is issued by the state administrative body in charge of foreign nationals or the Immigration Agency of Mongolia. I should say that depending on the type of visa, the visa permit, the list of documents required for visa permit can be different. And the list of documents shown on the slide is more general, and it includes a request of the hosting citizen, business entity, copy of passport of the foreign national, permit issued by the competent state administrative body to a foreign national coming to for work, copy of state registration certificate and license, if any, application form. And in case of applying for a visa permit for investment purpose, a reference from the administrative body or police authority of the home country and account statement for the last 6 months is also required. After obtaining a visa permit, the applicants may apply for visa at the Mongolian diplomatic missions, abroad and border points of Mongolia. And applicant must submit passport, photo, application form, visa permit and private invitation, official letter if required, and payment receipt of visa. If the foreigner entering Mongolia by C type of visa, then here you need to get a work permit from the Labor and Welfare Agency within 10 days after arriving. And list of the documents required for work permit is shown on the slide. It includes application forms, receipt of payment service fee, receipt of payment of work permit. And please note that this kind of payment for work permit shall be paid every month. Receipt of payment of the license to work in Mongolia, copy of certificate of state registration, and copy of passport page clearly containing passport number, date of issue, and expiry name and date of birth, passport with at least 12 months validity, medical examination form. For foreigners coming to Mongolia for private purposes such as investment or work shall file a request to obtain residence permission within 21 days to Mongolian Immigration Agency. And required documents includes official letter by an inviting citizen or business entity, reference on resident address from a governor of Som or Horo, passport, its copy. In case of a related person, marriage, birth, or adoption certificate, evidence of cohabitation or their apostilled copies and their certified translation, application form, photo, and other additional documents that may be required depending on the type of residence permit. Depending on the type of visa, the type of residence permission, it can be various. Investment type of residence permit is more suitable for investor of foreign investment company. And this type of residence permit can also be issued to the temporary visitors for business purpose. Work type of residence permit is more suitable for foreign nationals with work permit. To the current situation in the world, I would like to inform you about the cross-border regulation to the pandemic. All persons entering to Mongolia must present proof of a negative PCR test taken within 72 hours before departure from the first embarkation point. In case of a positive PCR test, the passenger must present proof that they have recovered from COVID-19 within the last 4 months. Okay, now I'll move to my second section, investor grievance system. And one of the leading priorities of the government is to protect the needs, the rights of the investors and provide foreign investors with stable legal policies and cooperation, as well as a favorable environment. To aid in its implementation process and international contracts, domestic laws and regulations, therefore, within the framework of the government objectives, aiming to restore investors' confidence and to attract more investment into the country, the government of Mongolia has established the Investor Protection Council. And by solving investor grievances before it becomes disputes at the court or arbitration within the framework of the international agreements, laws and regulation, the private sector has been protected from potential risks such as financial loss and suspension of the operation. As an investor, by submitting an application or make grievances through the SIRM system, the grievances can be made from anywhere at any time in the world. Investor will be able to monitor the progress of its grievance and how it has been resolving, and also it will be possible to resolve the grievances within the set time. So to make a grievance, you should visit the site shown on the slide. It is SIRN system, and file a grievance by creating your account in Make a Grievance section. Your grievance will be received by the Office of Investor Protection Council. Then within 3 days, the grievance will be reviewed and categorized, and measures will be taken to return the complaint that will not be resolved by a council or to transfer it to a redressing authority. However, the issues to be resolved by the council will be presented to other relevant government organizations, and feedbacks and conclusions will be obtained within 10 days. The office will analyze and receive feedbacks, conclusions, and submit recommendations to the grievance redressing authority. If the grievance redressing authority fails to comply with the office's recommendation and fails to resolve the grievance in a timely manner, the Office of the Investor Protection Council will consider the grievance and make a recommendation to resolve grievance. The SIRM system will resolve your grievances with multi-participation of government bodies, eliminate delays in the transfer of official letters between government agencies, increase the responsibility and efficiency of officials, and resolve investor grievances in a timely manner. And let's move to our last section, is enforcement proceeding in Mongolia. So a enforcement proceeding is based on a foreign court decision. Mongolia has acceded to the in 1999. Mongolia has acceded to Hague Convention relating to civil procedure, and according to it, the enforcement proceeding shall be conducted in the territory of Mongolia on the basis of decision of foreign courts and international courts and arbitral awards if provided in an international treaty to which Mongolia is a party. Also, in 1997, Mongolia joined the United Nations Convention on the Recognition and Enforcement of Foreign Arbitral Awards. It has declared that Mongolia will apply the convention on the basis of reciprocity to the recognition and enforcement of arbitral awards made only in the territory of contracting state. Also, Mongolia will apply the convention only to differences arising out of legal relationships, whether contractual or not, which are considered as commercial under the national law of Mongolia. Also, enforcement proceedings can be based on the bilateral agreements between Mongolia and other countries on legal aid. So to start enforcement proceeding on foreign court decision and on foreign arbitral award, a party interested in the enforcement of the arbitral award or foreign court decision shall submit a request for a writ of execution to the court of the jurisdiction of the payer's residence. Then enforcement of the arbitral award of foreign court decision shall be confirmed by a judge's order within 7 days from submission of the request. And after that, the judge shall immediately issue the writ of execution and deliver it to the payee, payer, and general executive agency of court decision within 7 days after issuance of the order. But actually, there are a few specific circumstances under Mongolian arbitration law in which arbitral award will not be enforced. It includes like if one of the party, no legal capacity, or the arbitration agreement is invalid, or arbitral award is not contemplated or not falling within the terms of the claim, or arbitral award is beyond the scope of the claim, and other grounds shown on the slide. Also, according to the Convention of dated 1954 on civil procedure, the execution of the letter of request to enforce foreign court decision may be refused if the authenticity of the document is not established, if in the state of execution, the execution of the letter does not fall within the functions of the judiciary, if the state on the territory of which the execution is to be effected considers that its sovereignty or its security would be prejudiced thereby. So we prepared our doing business legal manual on doing business in Russian, Mongolian, and English, and you can find the legal manual on our site and on the link shown on the slide. So that's the end of my presentations, and thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you for Solongo for her presentation. So we received like several questions from the attendees. So the first question was, does your company cover small and medium enterprises segment? If yes, are there specific services available for SMEs? So generally, like we do have the clients like SME, and we do also have clients like the big companies, international corporations. So depending on what kind of service you need, we can prepare our proposal offer. So generally what we do to our clients, like who want to do business in Mongolia, like we help them to set up the company, like on the registration side. And also we help to get the investor representative or the director of the company to get all this visa, residency permits. And we also help our the clients to operate in compliance of the Mongolian legislation, like assist them to prepare draft contracts, operational and commercial contracts. And we also assist to apply for the license and get the permit from the government authority. And also assist in that if there are any questions related to the day-to-day activities of the companies, we also assist them to advising that, what will be the right solution under the law. So I hope that you got your answer for SMEs. So if you have any other specific request, you can send us email. And I think a number of the attendees requested the copies of the presentation. So our marketing team will send you all 3 presentations to all the attendees by email. And also the second question was regarding the share capital of the foreign invested company. So the question stated that there is one foreign investor and 1 expat employees. So does it affect the required share capital of the company? So actually, if one foreign investor is already invested 100,000 USD, then I think it's in compliance with the law. The expat employees doesn't require, to contribute to the share capital. So also I mentioned during the presentation that in order to consider it as a foreign invested companies, the 25% or more of the shares needs to be owned by the foreign investor. Then the share capital of the 100,000 USD will be required to contribute to the share capital of the company. Otherwise, if the investor is only holding 5%, 10%, then 100,000 USD will not require to contribute by the foreign investors. And the next question is asking about regarding the management member of the company which interested to get the visa and work permit. So according to the relevant procedures for the foreign invested companies, 2 or 3 senior management employees of the company or the investor's representative is entitled to exempt from the workplace payment, and they can get investor type of visa and the residency permit. So we generally assist our client also to provide such services to obtain the required visa and residency permitted. So if you have any other like specific questions, you can still send us email. And the last question was about the arbitration award enforceability in Mongolia. So there is a number of some like good cases related to the Mongolia that, you know, international arbitration award is enforced in Mongolia. Even there are some cases that the government of Mongolia was like defendant of the arbitration awards, and the enforcement of against the government if government of Mongolia still like implemented by the government agency of the court, the decision executions. So we would say that, you know, we have some kind of practical cases that arbitration award is actually implemented in Mongolia, but actually you have to check that, you know, on the last presentation we mentioned that there is some exceptional cases that arbitration award cannot be like enforced in Mongolia. So maybe you can check more in detail depending on your own case. The next question asking about how often the companies use the SRM system. I think Solongo can answer on that.
Actually, the companies are using this SIRM system, but it's not so often because it's a new system and was introduced only in the previous year. So it's not actually well known in investors, between investors. So, but yes, there is some compliance that grievances that are already made decisions, and yeah.
Yeah, actually, you know, in addition to Solongo's answer, there is a investment protection council is attached to the Prime Minister of Mongolia, and they like the agenda is actually, you know, to improve the working environment to the more favorable to the foreign investors, and you know, we not like the big agenda is to attracting more the foreign investments to Mongolia. So like one of the action undertaken by from the government side is definitely this SRM new system. So if the investor has any complaint, they can submit its complaining from anywhere, anytime through the system, and the council will like take action on that, and hoping that helping the investors to do the business without any difficulty in Mongolia. So we covered all the questions from the attendees, and I would like to express my thanks to all of you for your time and interest to our webinars. And if, as we mentioned before, that we are actually doing the publication on the doing business for last 3 years. And for 2022, we already published on our website in English, Mongolian, and Russian. So if you need more information that how to start business in Mongolia, you can go to our website and get a copy of our legal manual on the doing business. So we keep updating that every year if there any legislation is changed, amended. those updates are actually done to our publications of doing business in Mongolia. So hoping that today you find our webinar kind of useful for your business and business activities. And if you have any questions, you can give us a call or send an email. So all the presentation will be sent you to your email by our marketing team. Thank you for your attention and for your time.